This man is called Bertrand Russell, and he wrote the book on theory of knowledge. No, he actually wrote the book called Theory of Knowledge back in 1913, which brought together the ideas which created ToK. We need to talk about Bertrand Russell. English philosopher Bertrand Russell was a leading light in the structuralist movement. Now, my last video was an introduction to structuralism, explaining why it's key for ToK. And if you're yet to watch that, I'll put a card to the video up here or somewhere. Now, to understand Bertrand Russell's role in structuralism, and consequently the founding of ToK, we need to go back to the work of French mathematician Henri Poincare. Poincare led the foundations for epistemic structural realism. This is a perspective on the nature of scientific knowledge, so AOK science, okay? Epistemic structural realism was proposed as a compromise between scientific realism and instrumentalism. More on that in a future video. Now, it states that our best scientific theories provide a correct account of the structure of the world, but not necessarily of its nature or ontology. Poincare, a mathematician and physicist, suggested that while we may not know the true nature of things, we can discern their relationships, which are more real and stable, stating that the relationships between mathematical entities, like numbers or geometric shapes, were more fundamental than the entities themselves. Now, Russell built on this idea in the early 20th century, advancing the idea that by distinguishing between knowledge acquaintance and knowledge by description, and he asserted that our direct, immediate experiences, that's acquaintance, were limited, and that much of our knowledge is derived from relations or structures, and that we could infer description. Russell's work in logic and the philosophy of mathematics, with its focus on structural relationships, further developed the structural perspective. And then building upon those early ideas, John Worrall in the late 20th century proposed structural realism as a solution to the pessimistic meta-induction problems in the philosophy of science. And this problem suggests that since many successful past scientific theories have been discarded, our current successful theories are likely to be discarded in the future as well. So just like they got it wrong in the past, we're also getting it wrong today, so to speak. Worrall argued that while theories do change, what tends to remain are the structural aspects. So it's the structure of the world that our theories get right, not necessarily the nature of its constituents. James Ladyman, a contemporary philosopher, further refined this to ontic structural realism, which posits that there are no objects or entities at the fundamental level of physics, only structures. Controversial. To appreciate this perspective, consider the transition from classical mechanics to quantum mechanics. Newtonian physics, with its focus on solid particles and forces, was replaced by a quantum field theory, with its emphasis on energy fields and probabilities. Yet despite this dramatic change in our understanding, many of the structural aspects, like conservation laws and symmetries, still persist. Now, in the real world, consider how we understand social networks like Twitter or Facebook. We may not know the detailed personal characteristics of every individual in a network, which is akin to the entities in this case, but we can often make accurate predictions based on the structure of the network. Who is connected to whom, the number of connections that there are, and so on and so on. The structure provides us with the knowledge, even when the nature of the individual elements remains unknown. Now, epistemic structuralism has many implications in the theory of knowledge, and implications are important in ToK. In sciences, it emphasizes the importance of relational properties, like the mathematical equations that describe natural phenomenon. In social sciences, it underscores the significance of social, economic and political structures in shaping individual experience. Critics, however, argue that it is nearly impossible to separate structure from the objects that constitute it, and it undervalues the role of entities in constituting the world. Despite these critiques, structuralism provides a unique perspective on knowledge production, which is why it underpins ToK. It reminds us that understanding the world often requires looking beyond individual objects or experiences, focusing instead on the relationships and the structures that bind them together. And we're going to be looking at these critics in a lot more detail in the next and final video in this 3-video series on structuralism. Now, if you're looking for extra help with your ToK essay or exhibition, we've got loads of resources to help you over at toktoday.com. You can even arrange written feedback or ToK coaching. If you could see your way to giving me a like or a subscribe for this video, I would be structurally grateful. Thank you for watching. Stay ToKtastic, my friends. Bye.